The big story that happened while you were away, and you may have seen a bit of this, is that a terror suspect escaped from prison.
Yes.
By strapping himself to the underside of a delivery lorry from HMP Wandsworth. He's 21 years old. He's now since been caught again. We should probably make it absolutely clear that he was on remand for allegedly trying to spy for an enemy state, understood according to the BBC to be Iran, and plotting a fake bomb hoax. But what I took from this was that you don't really see this happening much anymore. And I reckon back in the day, escaping from a prison was kind of like fair game. Like, the prison holds you in, you've done what you've done, that's your punishment. It's the prison's responsibility to hold you in there.
Yeah.
If you get away, because the technology's so poor, because we're going back, 100 years or whatever, if you get away, you're away.
Yeah.
You know, and it seemed like a lovely throwback.
It was a lovely throwback. And I think there was a Brazilian murderer who did a similar thing. He crab walked up the wall in America.
Wow.
And he was on the lam for a bit. I think he was an ex mountain climber or something. So they should have known.
Know that if you're a prison officer. Know that.
So someone had already crab walked up the wall. He'd sort of put his arms and legs on opposing bits of the wall and kind of climbed up like Batman used to do up a skyscraper.
Do we know how high?
Relatively high, but someone had done it. Like, it was a couple of stories, and then he had climbed over some barbed wire that had been installed the last time someone had crab walked up the wall. And this guy was like quite good at mountain climbing. Anyway, so he went on the lam, and he was he was kind of making his way through undergrowth, walking on the line of like power lines and stuff, only travelling at night and stuff. And he got quite far, and there was a massive manhunt for it. And when the police caught them, they did that pathetic kind of like they had like 50 police officers and the suspect in the middle, bleeding from a head wound, and they all took like a kind of celebratory kind of photograph.
Yeah, you shouldn't be doing that.
No, you shouldn't be doing that. It's awful. But so they did all that, and this guy got quite far. But in the press conference before he was caught, a journalist asked, "Did you expect? Could you ever see a situation where two prisoners climb on each other's shoulders like the Little Rascals?" Which is
with a big trench coat on.
Yeah, with a big trench coat on. And they asked that in a proper press conference. It really made me laugh because it was so fucking stupid. It has been the summer of jailbreaks in many ways.
I forget what it was. It said it, but like because he was working in the kitchen, this guy Daniel Khalife, he still had his chef's kind of uniform on when he escaped, which involved him wearing a pair of red trousers. And someone said, if he's in Richmond with red trousers on, you're never going to find him.
You're never going to find him. Because like
everyone's got them on.
Because Chiswick Park's massive, isn't it? Like,
he was in Richmond Park,
there.
actually.
Richmond Park, right.
Which
is that the one with the deers?
Absolutely huge. It is.
Riding a deer
massive.
around.
And it made me think, actually, that he left the prison apparently on the underside of a delivery lorry from the kitchen at like 7:30 in the morning. The prison staff didn't notice for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then the police weren't called, I think, for another 25 minutes after that, I guess because that just to make sure he wasn't on the premises or whatever. So he had a 45-minute head start. Now, I understand that prisons are horrendously underfunded and the prison system in this country is an absolute disgrace because it's been absolutely filleted by the Tory government for so many years. So I'm not trying to criticise any of the staff there. But you've got 45 minutes when you escape from a prison. What do you rate? What do you make of his tactics? So he basically went straight to Richmond Park.
Yeah.
And it took a couple of days to get him. What would you have done? Would you? Because I mean, the UK is the most CCTV covered country outside of China in the world, I think. So your options are very limited. What are you thinking?
Sewer. Take the sewer. Go on the roofs. That's what I would say.
Well, which? That's the opposite. Both those things are the opposite.
Well, just if the police go down the sewer, go on the roof, and if the police go on the roof, go in the sewer.
Did you grow up in a cartoon? What do you think this is?
Run up the wall like a crab. It is so difficult. But like, how do you? If I've got like a CCTV in my shop or outside my shop, do people police don't have access to all of the CCTV?
I think they can request it. I think
they can request it if they know that the person is in the area. Because I'll say that like Stu next door, when my scooter went missing, he looked on his Ring doorbell, he couldn't find anything.
Oh, so no,
I
no good. That's no
requisitioned
good.
some footage.
The good news is that that Ring doorbell means that Amazon will be selling him stuff that he doesn't need for the rest of his life. So
Right. Okay.
that's the downside.
Fine.
I'd like to know whether the guy in question saw an opportunity and took it.
Mm.
In which case, I think he did as well as he could have done.
Yeah.
But if this was a plan, you're really going to need to be having some kind of boat ready, I think. Some kind of quite isolated beach or port, some little fishing port or something. And you've got to get out of the country as soon as possible. Take advantage of Britain's frankly terrible relationship with the rest of Europe.
Yeah.
And get out of there.
Yeah, get out there. Well, there was a news story that we were going to talk about. I don't think we ever did, where a man in America put lemon juice on his face while robbing a bank, thinking it would make him invisible to the CCTV. I don't know where he'd read it. I believe it was Florida. I don't know where he'd read this, but apparently when he was arrested, he shouted, "How did you find me? I wore the juice." And I've been thinking about "I wore the juice" so often in the last few weeks.
That's a great catchphrase.
Yeah. How did you catch me? I wore the juice.
That's brilliant. and obviously, I wonder where he read that.
Yeah.
It's that reminds me of a story of about a couple of years ago. I can't quite remember the details. It's probably a lot more horrific than I'm remembering it. But did you hear that story of how there was a guy who tried to hold up a petrol station in like Slovakia?
Yeah.
And the woman working behind the counter basically gave him a blowjob to hold him there. Yeah, until the police arrived, he got caught.
That seems like a crazy decision to make, no?
She offered the blowjob. He accepted it. Stuck around for it.
I don't think that what's the not Munchausen by proxy? What's the thing when you fall in love with your captor?
Oh, Stockholm syndrome.
It just seems that happened way too quick.
I don't know the detail. I can't remember. It was like a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But she basically delayed him in the petrol station for the police to turn up.
Was it a bad? Like
I have
you wouldn't want to be good
idea.
at it, would you? You would take your time. You would be bad at it to elongate. So to speak.
That guy is probably still in prison now. Because armed robbery is a serious crime.
He needs to keep his eye on the prize, so to speak.
His priorities are all wrong,
all over the place.
Yeah.
Good God.
On the flip side, he probably is giving blowjobs himself as we record this.
Good.